Okay, hi there. My name is Clayton Stevens. I'm going to be walking you through the hypothesis, the methods, and the results in our study. Um, so, our hypothesis was that feedback given to somebody would only alter the level of self-efficacy when the feedback agrees with the individual's preconceived self-efficacy, so their first self-efficacy score. Participants with high pre-existing self-efficacy will increase their subsequently surveyed self-efficacy when they're given their positive fictitious feedback. Whereas participants with low pre-existing self-efficacy will demonstrate a deterioration in subsequent self-efficacy when given fictitious negative feedback. Okay, so here is the methods. Participants, we had 51 that completed the study. About 92% were female, where 8% were male. Average age was about 30 years old. 42% were of Caucasian descent, 3% Hispanic or Latino descent, 5% Native American or American Indian descent. The median high school GPA range of these participants were 3.25 to 3.5 when they were in high school. For our measures, we use the General Self-Efficacy Scale. We refer to this as the GSC. It was a scale between 1 to 4. If they marked 1, it was that the question that was asked is not true at all, where 4 is exactly true. In terms of reliability, for internal consistency, it was measured by Juarez and Contreras, 2008, a Colbrach's alpha value of 0.83. The same study, validity was gauged among 18 dimensions. Of those 18 dimensions, 15 showed strong validity with strong p-values, and those ranged between less than 0.001 to 0.008. For our proposed statistical analysis that we used a two-way between subjects and ANOVA. We used a p-value of 0.05 to determine whether our finding was significant or not. For compensation, extra credit was offered by various instructors, Eastern Oregon University, and the amount was dependent on what their instructor allotted out. For our procedure and variables, the study was conducted entirely online through the SurveyMonkey platform. After participants took their first initial GSC survey, they were asked to name as many colors as possible in 60 seconds. That data wasn't used in our study, so there was deception involved there. So after they completed their color naming test, participants were given randomized positive or negative feedback on this activity. So the positive feedback was that they scored in the top 15% of previous people who've taken it, and then the negative feedback was that they scored in the negative 15%. So the numeric, and then they did another GSE survey after they got the feedback, and the data that we got was the difference between the first GSE scale and the subsequent one. The independent variable then was the positive or negative feedback given out, and it was manipulated to affect the dependent variable, which the dependent variable was the numerical change between the pre-existing GSE scores and the post-feedback GSE scores. We split those results between their first GSE scale when the GSE scale was lower. That was the low. We had the low pre-existing self-efficacy group, and we had a high pre-existing self-efficacy group. Participants were debriefed after because deception was used in the study. Okay, so our results were not significant. This image here is a little bit fuzzy, but I will walk you through it in a sec. So pre-existing GSE scores were not significantly indicative in the changes of future GSE with feedback. Our p-value observed was 0.40 and the f-value was 0.74. The effect value between the two pre-existing GSE groups was not significant. P-value 0.23, f-value 1.46. With this stated, the effect between the fictitious feedback, between the positive feedback and the negative feedback, was significant. The f-value is 6.02, p-value was 0.02, and the effect size was 0.111. So when participants were given positive feedback, their GSE scores did improve. When they gave negative feedback, their GSE scales did deteriorate. But that didn't depend on what their first GSE score showed. So the high pre-existing GSE group as well as the low pre-existing GSE group, there wasn't a significant difference to make the interaction significant. So those that had high pre-existing GSE scores and then they were given positive feedback, they improved 0.757 points, the standard deviation of 2.32. Though in that same group of high pre-existing GSE, they deteriorated 0.53 points when they were given negative feedback, and that's the mean. And the standard deviation there is 2.19. In terms of the low pre-existing GSE group, they gained actually more with the positive feedback at 2.00 points of a mean, and the standard deviation there is 2.83. When the low pre-existing GSE group was given negative feedback, they deteriorated 0.29 points on their subsequent GSE score, and that's a mean. The standard deviation there was 0.76.